This time I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the southeastern Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters we gather on today. We extend our respect to their ancestors and elders past and present, and to all First Nations people. My name is Wendy White and I'm a civil celebrant. But I'm not wearing that hat today. I'm here today as a friend to Scott Dunbabin and his family, and to support you all and escort you through this celebration of remembrance of Scott's life, his loves and his interests. I'd like to ask Julie Rutherford to come forward and light a candle here for Scott. And now Megan Kenny would like to place some flowers for Scott. This evening you will hear many stories and memories from a number of people who shared different periods throughout Scott's life. Of course, given the longevity of some of Scott's friendships and relationships, there's bound to be some overlap. We all know that Scott was very creative. He was capable with his hands, and his gentle peace of mind enabled him to create music and art, build his home and enjoy his garden over many years. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot about those attributes and others throughout the evening. You're going to have an opportunity, as you have done already, to hear Scott's music, and later you'll see him play on recording. And as you can see in the order of service, you have a number of images of Scott's artworks to enjoy as well. The still lifes of recent works, as is the self-portrait. Now, this service may be a little longer than some funerals or memorials you've been to in the past. We've got an hour and we're going to try to wrap Scott's life into that, just an hour. It's a hard ask, but let's give it a go. We'll keep you engaged and interested, so please stay with us. And I can assure you that I've waggled my finger at our speakers, so if they go on for a little too long, I'll be waggling my finger again. An event like this takes a lot of planning and organising in a short time, as you can imagine. Cara and Bianca, Scott's beautiful daughters, have done a wonderful job in planning and preparing this evening, in line with some of the wishes that Scott was able to share with them in the last few weeks of his life. And that in itself makes this a very special event, knowing that this is how Scott wanted to have his life celebrated and his memories shared. And we're very fortunate to be able to be here together in this historic venue, Montserrat, a place that Scott had a particular connection to. So with great courage, Cara and Bianca would like to speak with you this evening. So that's enough from me for now. I'll hand over to Cara and Bianca.
Hi. So we were lucky enough to spend time with Dad in his final days, with him telling us some of his wishes of what today would look like. It's a pretty hard chat to have, talking to a parent about their funeral, but we are so grateful that we've had this time and opportunity with him. So we feel like we ticked most of the boxes and some more. So Dad said to me, I hope a few people turn up. Having you all here today shows how much he was loved and how much we are loved. So thank you. Words really can't sum up the love I have for my dad and how he has helped me shape the person I am today. As you already know or are about to learn, he was a man of many talents. He could whip up a house with a multi-level garden, compose a piece of music or two, create art so effortlessly, not like that, see? And not only for himself, but for his loved ones as well. I have many favourite memories with Dad, so it's hard to only speak of a few. But what stands out for me are the silly songs and dances we would break out randomly together at any given moment, when you least expected it, something I still do pretty regularly. Through this, Dad has taught me how important it is to tap into my playfulness and be able to make fun of myself. As we got older and life and the world became more serious, being able to still be stupid together always brought so much laughter. When Dad found something really funny, he had that high-pitched laugh that I never hoped to forget. I made sure I got to tell Dad how grateful I was to him for this in his final days. I also got to tell Dad that I'd miss our chats about life and how to do it. And he assured me he'll always be here. He'll always be here to guide me when I need it. I told him a part of me was excited for his next adventure, and he was relieved to know this, and that I wasn't just scared or sad about losing him. We were lucky enough to have a dad that always told us how much he loved us, and I'll be able to go on knowing this, and forever be able to smile remembering life with Dad in it. So again, thank you to each of you for coming today to hear these words, and for your support in your very special own ways. Thank you to the nurses at Box Hill that made Dad's final days the most comfortable they could be when it wasn't possible to get him home. Thank you to Montserrat for being the perfect venue for today due to Dad's strong connection here. Thank you to everyone who has helped prepare for today and contribute. Words can't express our appreciation. And thank you to my sister. I'm so lucky we have each other through this, and we'll forever be able to share memories together of our dad.
Hi everyone. When I was in year 7, we were told to write a speech about our hero, and I ended up writing my speech about Dad. I think it sums up my love and admiration for Dad really well. So now here I am, reading it out 20 years later. So, my hero. Dad is a hero because I admire him for all the things he can do. He is a teacher, a musician, a community worker, an artist, a builder, a gardener, and a great dad. He inspires me because not only can he do all of these things well, but he does them really well. As a musician, my dad built his own instrument and has made 2 CDs. He's also a great artist. He's really good with colours, and it really helps when I have to design something. For instance, since we moved into our house, Dad has landscaped the garden, built a balcony, 3 decks, a music room, 2 arbours, and last week I came home and there was another one. Being an artist is probably one of the reasons why Dad has made a terrific garden. And as you can see, Dad keeps very busy. He used to be very fit and even played football for Collingwood. He has also been in a movie called The Club, playing football. As if he wasn't busy enough already, Dad has a job as a teacher. He teaches people to work with people who have a disability. He works with community services because he's good at helping other people. I admire Dad because he looks after my sister and I really well. My sister and I know we can always depend on him. Dad's qualities are that he's warm-hearted, fun, kind, smart, loving, and he makes me feel safe. He survives when things go wrong and teaches me to do the same. If I didn't have my dad, I wouldn't have the opportunity to learn about building, gardening, art and music. I wouldn't have as much fun with different things. He encourages me to try my best, so my life wouldn't be the same if he wasn't in it. Dad gives me hope because he believes I can do all the things that he does and more. He also shows me how to have fun when I don't feel like it. My dad is my hero because he's a good example of how I would like to be. So after I performed this speech, we had my little cue cards framed and hung up on the wall at home. 20 years on, I still admire these qualities in Dad, and his way of life has had a profound impact on me. He encouraged me to always have an open mind, and his passions and talents have inspired me to appreciate the beauty in music, art and nature. He taught me the importance of being a great listener, to be gentle to the people around you, and to have empathy and compassion for others. Dad has such a kind, loving and gentle soul. At every opportunity, he would tell me that he loved me and that he was proud of me. His openness and willingness to share his feelings and emotions made me feel safe to express my own. I always knew Dad had incredible strength, positivity and resilience, but his mindset during his cancer journey really highlighted this. It was truly inspiring to witness, and I hope that I can display the same qualities when I face adversity in the future. And lastly, Dad's playful nature meant that spending time with him was always fun. I'll miss tapping along on the kitchen bench while Dad sings his little made-up songs in the kitchen. And I'll miss being cheeky and eating delicious treats with him, even when dinner was only an hour away. We both loved devouring a few potato cakes on the way home from school. And I'll even miss his dad jokes that would make me laugh and cringe at the same time. I'm thankful for the fun that we had, and I'll cherish those memories forever. I feel so incredibly lucky to have had a dad like him, and I can't thank him enough for teaching me and guiding me through life. Even though Dad has passed, I know he will never be far away. His love and encouragement will forever be in my heart, and I'll carry this with me for the rest of my life. I want to extend a huge thanks to Cara for experiencing this journey with me, to my partner Luke for his incredible support, and to everyone who has lent a hand and contributed their time and efforts for this event. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
There's a group of people here today who have known Scott probably for as long as anyone else here, and they are Scott's friends from his high school days. Some of them probably even knew him earlier than that, but many of them did meet during teenage years. Jim Ringan's here somewhere.
Yeah.
Lovely to see you again, Jim.
Come on, gang, up you come.
Would you and all your the boys come and share some of your memories?
Good evening. My name is Jim Ringan, and I'm speaking on behalf of what Scott and we call the boys. So the memories and recollections I'm about to share are ours and not mine. The second thing I want to say is I'm glad so many people are wearing Scott's favourite colour. And the third thing is that the collective noun for a group of boys is a posse of boys. They're young, exuberant and adventurous. Although now we're a bit older, our collective noun should be a chorus of old farts. So I'd like to introduce you to each of the boys, as we've known Scott anywhere from 44 to 55 years. Before I do this, one of the many things that Scott used to do and created was reverse our names. So we sort of, nowadays you do that to make up your porno name, but what he did back then, he was a bit before his time. So Jim Ringan, I'm Mitch Nickner, Ben Thompson. Pick it up. No, you don't need to repeat it. Good luck with the microphone. Reverend Nothmoth, Ian Douglas, Naomi Salgood, Ian Murray, Yaram Shrip, and Robbie May was Yan Ebor, and guess what Scott was? Tops did better. So, out of all of us, Robbie was the first to meet Scott at Olympic Village Primary School. In his own words, Robbie remembered, Scott was the largest and strongest kid at Olympic Village. Scott towered over the small children in his class. He stood out in the sea of little children in bugs. Little Robbie's friends dared him to slap the towering, formidable Scott. Robbie summoned his courage and delivered a pathetic slap, expecting chaos to ensue. But to his shock, Scott's response was not what he anticipated. Instead of anger, Scott simply stood there bewildered, towering and unflinching, with a look of amusement and surprise. He didn't take any revenge, just took the opportunity to befriend the young boy, and that friendship continued for 55 years. By the way, at the end of prep, Robbie went into witness protection by going to St. Pius Primary School. Peter remembered that as schoolboys in Form 1 at Heidelberg High, they would muck about on the way home from school, fly kites at Mullahan Park, talk about last night's episode of The Night Stalker, and laugh at the things that 13-year-old boys laugh at. In Form 6, now Year 12, Murray and I, Latrobe High School did not have a Year 12 class, so we went to Heidelberg High, and that's where we went back into Scott. Ian went to McLeod High. Robbie was a police cadet at this stage, but we all still sort of kept together, so the gang was formed. My earliest memory with Scott was in Form 6, sitting in his bedroom, which later became the Humpy, remember that, Glenn? Listening to Queen, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and that great band, The Sweet. Some of our best times in our uni years, as we often hung out together, going to the Old E for a night out, or going to the New Boundary Hotel or other places. Not a lot of cash, so our entertainment was each other. For example, one night Scott ended up in a shopping trolley being pushed down the street after the pub closed. It crashed, of course, and tipped over, and we were all worried he'd hurt himself, until he started clapping, still in the trolley whilst on his side. And then he wanted to get back again, and then he wanted to be pushed again. My recollection of Scott is that one night we decided to go for a drink, as though we went to the Coliseum Hotel, if you're that age, if you remember that. Our wine of choice back at that stage was Fruity Lexia, not the classy stuff in a glass, no. Cask wine, 5 litres. Didn't have a glass, so we went to Macca's. Threw out the Coke. Went back to Heidelberg High School, drank our wine in a couple of hours. Because he could drink, the young boy, couldn't he? We pledged our love to each other, that's what boys do when they have a few drinks. And then we also pledged our love for Nina Pasiccio. Anyway, I guess you got the girl. Not me, the blonde, surfy looking dude. No. The 6-foot Adonis with the dark looks and olive skin. We enjoyed our boys' weekends going camping and later when working and having cash. We actually could have a rental. Scott was the life of the party and he would body surf down the stairs of a rental in the Superman pose, so we get a true story. Or he'd grab someone's guitar, probably Robbie's or Peter's, and play it upside down. He definitely played it better than you, Robbie, didn't he? He was good at everything. He was excellent at sport, art, music, teaching, communicating with people. And he chose what he wanted to be. When the rest of us were studying engineering or business or mathematics at uni, he wanted to study art. And when he had the choice to play football, he turned away from it because he wanted to be a musician. Scott was full of life, sincere, trustworthy, considerate, friendly, and always there for you. But he also had a very cheeky and naughty side. He was your best friend, but he also found a way to stir us up when he felt the need. He had a sharp humour and wit, which he could easily turn into the funniest rhyming song, didn't he? We used to call them Scott's Skitties, and they got funnier the more he had to drink. Scotty enjoyed scaring people, especially Tomo, by hiding in cupboards and then jumping out when he least expected it. But Ian got him back about 5 years ago. We had Scott's place. And we're all there and Ian turned up late. So the front door was open, so Ian snuck in, put on a clown mask and sat cross-legged in the study, which was directly opposite the door. No scary clown mask. But Scott heard a sound, so he went to the front door, saw nothing there, turned around and saw something was not quite right in the study and took a closer look. When he saw the clown mask, sitting there and leering at him, he screamed. Now that little high-pitched scream, we fell about laughing. In our middle years and beyond, through marriages, fatherhood, the loss of loved ones and all of life's slings and arrows, we could talk about life, music, good Scotch whisky and wine, and laugh endlessly at the stories and shared memories that only childhood friends can share. And finally, we got all the boys give me some, they had to write up a 300-word essay, which I made. And this is their final thoughts. For me, I don't think I ever heard him say a bad word about anybody. He was a warm and kind soul, and when I told him that recently, I could see that it meant something to him to hear that. I was looking forward to our retirement years when we could spend more time together and get to appreciate the artistic talents more, and whether that be music, painting or something else. We will miss having that opportunity with him, and we'll just miss him full stop. For Robbie, Scott had a rare talent not just for creating melodies but for weaving friendships, making each of us feel blessed to have known him. As we mourn his passing, we celebrate the legacy of creativity, laughter and warmth he leaves behind. Farewell, my dear friend, may your melodies play on in the heavens above. For Murray, we all felt that we had a deep personal connection with Scott because we all did. He gave himself fully to the care of our people. We will never forget how we all laughed together, the fun we had and the friendship and experiences we shared. From Peter, in the end, we could still laugh at the old stories shared for the 100th and final time. In nearly 50 years of friendship, I never laughed as long and as hard as we did together, and I can still hear it now that you're gone. Now's my turn. My best mate is Scott. I think he's a lot of best mates, people's best mates. And when speaking to Murray on the Tuesday after his passing, I suddenly felt lonely. Aside from what I've just read, and some of the other reasons, the main one is that I'm going to miss my brother from another mother. The boys, myself, our partners, and I'm sure most people here will miss him dearly. Finally, he loved his Scotch whisky, and we'll make sure that we'll have an annual honorary drink on his behalf to honour a wonderful friend and a fantastic human being. Thank you.
Beautiful, Jim.
That was Scott.
Scott just fell over.
Was it me?
What you did, you old farts. Gosh. With Scott back in place, I invite you now to reflect on what we've heard so far and indulge your memories of Scott and your relationship with him while we enjoy one of his solo bass improvisations. We're now going to hear from some of Scott's work friends and colleagues, people more closely connected to his artistic and creative adventures. Rob Vince has been a friend of Scott for a long time. He met Scott through a mutual friend back in 1983 when Scott was doing fine arts at RMIT and Rob was studying music at VCA. I believe Rob was invited to play in a band with Scott that he was playing in. Rob, would you like to share with us?
Hi everyone. I'm honoured to be able to share with you parts of Scott's journey that I sat in on. Over the 40 odd years that I've known Scott, I've had the privilege of sharing hardcore conversations about life, death, art and music. Early on, hanging out at Twins 24-hour cafe in Carlton, long road trips to gigs in faraway places for not great pay, playing duo improvisations in the sacred places of Mount Macedon and in his recording studio, all locations for trying to unravel the mystery of human becoming. We quickly became deep friends, but not a couple, as some suspected. To be sure, Scott was a brother, a friend without benefits, if you know what I mean. However, the first inkling we had that some people thought we were in a special relationship occurred when Scott asked me to take a number of photographs for him for an album cover, and that's one of them. Scott wanted a rural country setting for his portrait, so he drove us to an old mud brick church somewhere out towards St Andrews. As we drove through the gate of the church, we were sprung by the groundsman who asked us what we were doing. Not wanting to be explicit, Scott said we were scouting churches for a special wedding occasion. The groundsman gave us that very special knowing nod and wink and let us through. Over the years, several other instances occurred where we were mistaken for a couple, but as hip metrosexuals, we just went with it. I think the TikTok generation might now use the term bromance, but there is something special about being in a mutually entrained musical relationship that explores both the lightness and the darkness of each other's soul. I was going to say that there's nothing I can tell you about Scott that you don't already know, but actually there is. I'll give you 3 examples. Firstly, his sense of direction was questionable. One night, after finishing a gig at a club in Greville Street at about 2 in the morning, Scott wasn't entirely sure how to get back to his new home, Hartwood, in Upper Fantry Gully. I suggested that he go south on Chapel Street and just keep going. I forgot to mention that he should go left on Dandenong Road. Unfortunately, Scott didn't take the left and continued on the Nepean Highway towards Frankston, when he realised he was lost. Thank God for Melways and Warrigal Road. Secondly, Scott's musical taste was highly eclectic. You will likely know that Scott's approach to bass playing was profoundly influenced by the avant-garde European jazz bassist Eberhard Weber. However, what you might know is one of Scott's early musical inspirations, other than the Suite and the bands that Jim mentioned before, was the bespectacled Greek goddess Nana Mouskouri. Those of you under 60 years old might not know of Nana Mouskouri, but on Scott's behalf I can recommend her songs The White Rose of Athens and 4 and 20 Hours. Thirdly, Scott was scientifically inclined. We had a residence at Sofitel Hotel playing jazz gigs 3 nights a week. In one of the sets, the band would retire from the stage, leaving the pianist Sue Johnson and vocalist Jodie to perform a very emotional ballad. Scott wondered if Sue could accompany Jodie if her feet were being tickled. So rather than getting off stage for that number, Scott crawled under the piano to tickle Sue's feet. Of course, Sue stayed professional while Scott was experimenting, but the outcome was clearly that a piano player could not be put off her game when her feet were being tickled. We often ask the question, why do good people die young? And I think Scott gave me the answer. His death jogs us back into remembering that only love matters. Scott, as the living embodiment of love, compassion, service and creativity, reminds us to live in each now moment embracing the qualities that he exemplified. For our time on the earthly plane is short. Scott, I look forward to a time when you'll meet me on the other side of the Rainbow Bridge, Aussie pizza and Coke Zero in hand, and we can resume our music making. For now, I am blessed that you have such a strong place in my heart and the hearts of all the people you've encountered. May the blessings be.
Thank you, Rob. I don't know if there was anyone here today that played in many of Scott's earlier bands. One of my memories was a band, one of his early bands was called Man-Sized Handkerchiefs. I'll never forgot that. I thought they could have been big, you know. Another person who Scott met a long time ago, in fact on their first day of uni at RMIT, is Andrew Messi. The first time they met, Scott showed Andrew his gouache paintings of birds, which had comprised his portfolio for university entry. Andrew, would you like to talk?
This is Mary Cassisi. We went to university with Scott. So I first met Scott in 1981 on the first day of our degree in RMIT, of our art degree. That day, Scott showed me his delicate gouache paintings of birds. His enthusiasm for those tiny creatures seemed perfectly at home in the hands of the strapping young footy player from Heidelberg. Our friend Mary Cassisi recalls his long dark locks of hair and insatiable curiosity. She says his generous spirit and genuine interest in people made them feel special. She noticed that his dark, brooding artworks did not reflect his cheeky smile and friendly disposition. Anne Bennett also went to university with us, and she remembers Scott's early musical performances with the Jodie Storr Trio. Anne was their number one groupie over the summer of '82. She remembers it as a glorious summer filled with music, creative explorations and much laughter. To me, Scott's sense of humour really stood out. I'd like to share two examples. One day, Scott and I were on the roof of the painting building, gazing down on the street, when our lecturer emerged below. From our vantage point, we had a clear view of a bald patch which could not be seen from any other angle. It was a great discovery. We were young and had hair, so to us this was hilarious. A few days later, I was painting when Scott burst in to say, "Quick, he's leaving." So we bolted for the roof and took up positions in time to see the bald spot emerge and totter off up the street. This became our weekly ritual. Another time, the two of us went to a prestigious gallery in Toorak to see an exhibition. As we walked in, we saw the director and our lecturer drinking wine in the front office. We nodded politely and walked past into the deserted gallery. There was a hushed and reverent silence. We looked at the paintings for a while when Scott started to grimace and hold his stomach. I asked him, "What's wrong?" He said, "I think the baby's coming." "Okay, that's enough," I said. No, it's really coming." He started to squat and in that position walked a few steps into the corner saying, "My water's broke." I was mortified. What if they hear us in the front office? I was just so embarrassed. I demanded he stop. I said, don't do it. But he was red-faced and straining. "I can't, it's coming," he panted. And the performance ran its noisy course. On reflection, I asked myself, why didn't I just walk out? All I can say is Scott really committed, and he was bearing down hard. So you're really going to walk out on your friend when he's giving birth? Anyway, thankfully, the labour went well. Everybody was fine. Years later, Scott told me about creating his wonderful 6-string bass. He explained that a conventional bass couldn't produce the sounds that lay dormant within and that he needed to express. He was intelligent and rational, deeply creative, and he could be playfully absurd. That's an incredible range for one person. I can see why regular bass with 4 strings wasn't enough for him. He had more range. He played life on all 6 strings, and he invited us all along for the journey.
Thank you, Andrew. Another familiar old face today here is an old friend of Scott's, again from his youthful years. I have fond memories of Stephen Lambert and Scott together as teenagers. And Steve would like to now say a few words. I can't believe I've seen you today.
Hi everyone. I will miss my friend Scott. I still remember when we first met that first day of high school. It didn't take long for us to become good mates. We shared thoughts, ideas, a love of music, and we both had a knack for finding the funny side of things, including practical jokes. We shared more laughs than I can count. My favourite memory is the one that backfired on him. Scott had this habit of trying to scare the hell out of me. This incident happened one weekend when he was over at my house. We had spent the day listening to music, playing records, the long weekend, and it was time for him to head home. I needed to go to the toilet at that time, and Scott asked if he could go first so that he could head on home. So he did. About now, I needed to tell you that, but now I need to tell you that our toilet was a fairly large long room with no mirrors, plenty of space for someone to hide behind a door. When Scott was finished, he popped his head in my bedroom and said, "Goodbye." And he said goodbye. I thought he was out the door and headed home. So I took myself to the toilet, got in there, unzipped my pants, stood in front of the toilet to take care of business. If you're thinking, no, he didn't hide behind that toilet door, I'm here to tell you, yes, he did. As soon as I started to let loose, Scott screams at the top of his voice behind me, "Rah!" I automatically turned around, scared to death, as you can imagine. I just couldn't stop myself. I peed all over Scott. He was waving his arms, I saw him waving his arms, "Stop, stop!" But I was so scared. He pushed me out the way, ran out the door. He was so embarrassed and just ran. It was like a skit out of a Monty Python show. When we finally met again, we laughed about it, but he made me swear never to tell Peter or Jim and the boys. And until now, I have kept that secret. But I can tell you though, Scott never tried to scare me like that again. When I moved to the States and got married, Scott and I lost touch. When I returned, we caught up again. After 12 years of not seeing each other, our friendship was still the same. It was great to see how we've grown from being 12-year-old boys from high school to now men with families. Scott was gifted with his arts, music, and anything he wanted to create. I am very glad and blessed that Scott was my friend and was a part of my journey in my life. I will miss him dearly.
Thank you, Stephen. We won't tell a soul. So we're clearly getting the picture that if Scott Dunbabin was your friend, he was your friend for a long time. That's very special. Ros McMillan is a friend of Scott's and a previous band member who's also very keen to say a few words to you all today. That's Ros. Thank you, Ros.
Thank you, Wendy. I'd like to begin by thanking Cara and Bianca for the opportunity to talk about their darling dad and the 10 years of music making we've shared. In 1995, Brian Brown invited Scott to join a new quartet with Sue Johnson on keyboard and Alex Couture on percussion, and it played until 1999. This was the 10th Brian Brown ensemble, the first being established in 1956. In Brian's very last ensemble, which ran from 2000 to 2010, Scott played bass, Brian the Yamaha WX5 wind controller, and I played keyboard. It was an all-electric group, a major feature being Scott's beautiful, unique handmade instruments, Firstly, the SD1 5-string electric upright bass, and later the 6-string SD2 bass. In the first few years together, we played music that Brian had written for us, but later there was a change of direction, typical of Brian's constant search for new sounds. This change took the form of free improvisations based on musical ideas devised by each one of us in turn. Whoever was the leader, that player announced the key to be used and then began to play. Whatever the mood or character of those first phrases, they set the parameter of the improvisation, with the other two players responding to make the piece a fluent and coherent whole. It was a most demanding and daunting task, but unrivaled as a means of developing oral acuity. There was one piece where Scott's superb sense of timing really shone. It was inspired by a visit Brian and I made to Port Arthur, the penal settlement south of Hobart that has seen so much tragedy over the years. Off the coast lies an island known as the Isle of the Dead, which was used to house the convict children and also provide the burial site for the convicts who, when they died, were placed in unmarked graves. When Brian came home, he devised a piece titled Isle of the Dead. We recorded it on our CD Jupiter Moon, and I often play it at conference presentations when discussing improvisation. It provokes a profound reaction from the audience as they listen to it, not only because of the theme, but also the extraordinary musical sounds. These consist of Brian playing the leather bowhorn, a unique instrument created for him by the Tasmanian leather sculptor Gary Greenwood. For the keyboard, I was told, play anything using E flat minor, F minor, G flat minor, or B flat minor. Scott did not play the bass, but a bell. In the 4 minutes that comprise the music, he strikes the bell just over 20 times, beginning and ending the piece with single strokes surrounded by silence. It is a masterclass in the placement of sound. If the piece had consisted of only the bowhorn and keyboard, the music would have been powerful. With the bell, the music is breathtaking. Brian and I had enormous regard for Scott, most particularly for his artistry. This was clearly evident in his innate musical ability, his creativity exemplified in his exquisite instruments, and his knowledge and experience in the visual arts, all of which combined to give him his distinctive personal musical voice. Scott will be greatly missed, both for his musicianship and as a friend and father.
Thank you, Ross. It's been very touching to see so many of Scott's friends wanting to take part and be a part of this celebration today, to reminisce and to share their memories and stories, and to honour their friend that we're mourning. And wow, hasn't there been a variety of reminiscing and nostalgia today, Jess? Let's take another break to enjoy another of Scott's solo bass improvisations, and maybe you'd like to contemplate some of your emotions and thoughts about your relationship with your dear friend. just have a couple more people who'd like to take part in our service this evening. Another long-standing and close friend who's waited patiently for this is Bob Crossthwaite. This is your time, Bob. I believe Bob has lots of stories, so you be careful. I don't have to wait.
Yeah, thank you. That's, just listening to all those stories, I just think, what can I possibly add to this? But I was going to introduce myself as an older friend, but I just more or less want to say I was at a level of maturity against Scott. I was born in 41, he was born in 62. There was a 21-year difference between the two of us. And in the 1990s, that's last century, I met Julie, when I think she was doing Tibet at the time, and she introduced me to Scott. I first met Scott when he was working at the Jane Field Psychiatric Centre, and I hasten to add I wasn't an inmate at the time, I was just visiting. And I first heard him play, and listening to Roz at the moment, play at Chapel with Brian Browns, and he was, I think the CD was Blood, if I remember, 1997. And Scott's composition was Rollo. It was played on the then SD1 5-string bass, and there's a photograph of it up on the table as the entrance. And of course, a firm friendship developed over time. Mark Hearns and I worked alongside Scott in the Disability Services Training Unit within the Department of Human Services. And here we undertook all sorts of training and other projects. And it was here that the infamous Project 13 team of Scott, Mark and myself was formed. Alongside the department's projects, the Triumvirate engaged in extracurricular activities, as you do. And the activities were code-named Project 13. These projects were wide and varied and include winemaking, for instance. With help from Serge, we made a delightful drop, which was named the Days, D-A-Z-E, of Wine and Poses. I'm sure there's still some hidden away under the stairs there at Hardwood, and still at, I think, 60 cents a bottle. There was the Gentleman's Retreat, where Project 13 team, Scott, Mark and myself, would spend time at Lake Tyers Beach. I remember sitting on the veranda, like a lot of the other people were saying, facing the lake and sea, and with the help of lots of space-side brain juice, most of the world's problems were solved. But alas, no one took Project 13's ideas seriously. The Project 13 team and an associate, Julie, ventured into the wilds of Scotland. My memories were happiness, laughter, all bound up with our varied renditions of bonny Scottish ballads. And Scott decided to buy a chanter, but he didn't progress to a full set of bagpipes. We built things together. We dug holes together. Now that's another story, but we'll get to later. It was years of the good life, laughter, adventures, such as a guided tour of West Heidelberg. And lots of single malt tasting. Mark and I believe Scott to be a remarkable person, humble in his approach to things that mattered. When Scott put his mind to it, as we've heard by many others, it worked. He was an artist. It happened, he was an artist in everything he undertook, working in the area of social justice, composing and performing, his music, a fine painter and craftsman, and of course a great digger of bowls. I stand alongside the famous bass, a wonderful piece of craftsmanship, an instrument only Scott could truly make sing. And someone, I think, said to me, love is a friendship set to music. I was privileged Scott granted me a great friendship, and I believe we enjoyed something special that a lot of people didn't have. I know the happiness of being Scott's friend transcends the sorrow of the loss of such a dear friend. Ballet, Scott Frederick Dunbabin.
Thank you, Bob. I think the price of that wine might need to go up if you Alison McDonald and Tracy Jones were colleagues with Scott at the Student Development Centre, working at a number of schools around Melbourne. I believe that Scott made quite an impression and impact on those he worked with and the schools he worked in. I would like to speak with you this evening, and I believe it's Tracy that would like to read a poem or Ralph or Emerson.
Good evening. Today we celebrate Scott, our colleague and friend. Scott started at the Student Outreach Centre 15 years ago. He started in November 2010. He led the team with compassion, empathy, and with a deep knowledge about how to support students in public education who are at risk and who are challenged. His passion and enthusiasm was infectious, and Scott was legendary. He readily shared his passion with all around him, and the education department were better off with him. And Scott is sorely missed. So Scott, it's time to put the pencil away, to close the lid on the computer, and to lock the classroom door. For your immeasurable commitment and influence has made an indelible imprint on us all and in public education. So Scott, it's time for you to sip that red wine that we shared, to pick up the bass that we listened to, and to gaze out your window at your beautiful garden. On behalf of the team, Tracy, Dana, Nicole, past and present Lee, and Vicky, it's been our privilege and an honour.
For our team, I wanted to read a poem in honour of Scott with a creative twist, because he was always great at creatively twisting everything. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics, and to surround yourself with a beautiful collection of loving friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better with a healthy child, a garden patch, a redeemed social condition, to know that even one life is breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. This is in honour of Scott, because as we can see today, he has made a massive impact on the lives of many, and that is a massive success and a lifelong legacy to leave. Thank you.
Well, our last speaker this evening doesn't need much of the introduction. He's the man in this room that's known Scott Dunbabin longer than any of us, and that's his baby brother, Glenn. No further introduction needed to him. Would you like to come and say a few words?
Firstly, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming today. actually quite surprised Scott had so many friends. Growing up with him was interesting. Let me start. Scott Frederick Dunbabin, born 28th of the 10th, 1962, little brother to Jan. Bob and Roon's firstborn. They didn't think much of that, so they had another one and they were pretty happy. Just a few stories to say about growing up with my brother, big brother. He had a knack, as everyone's heard, of winding people up. And I think I was a guinea pig in all of that. First story I got is one day we were, of a Sunday, doing a bit of wrestling as two brothers do, and he knows how to pull the right strings and get me fired up. And Mum's favourite word was, "Scott, stop tantalising your brother. You know he's got a short fuse." And that's Mum's code word of saying, "Scott, your brother's mental, don't wind him up." So anyway, this day I happened to get a bit creative under the table that Dad had made us. So being little enough to crawl under it, I got the black texter and did me finest artwork. This was found out probably a few years later when the glass top we were wrestling on happened to break. So Dad happened to turn the table upside down, and lo and behold, written on top of that is, "Scott is a dog." Quickly followed by, "Scott is a walk." The dog part, I can't remember where it come from. The walk part is because he was always referred by Mum as a gorgeous little gollywog because of his black curly hair. So it wasn't racist at all. Needless to say, we moved on a couple of years and we used to play brandy out in the backyard. Scott thought it was fun. We'll dink it in and we'll throw things over at it. At it being me, because that's what he used to call me. Anyway, he's pinging the balls at me. I've ran behind the incinerator that we used to have in West Heidelberg. Ran straight into Dad's shower screen, shattered it. I'm in there in pain. And all I can do is hear Scott saying, "Mum, Glenn's broke the shower screen." Needless to say, he come over and had a look at me screaming in pain, and there's a 4-inch gash in my leg where the screen shattered. So anyway, he went and got Mum. Mum comes out, oh bloody hell. Said, "Bob, the youngest one's in trouble again." And Scott's looking there laughing his head off at me, making me even more angry. So Dad picks me up, blood pissing out of my leg, runs me into the bathroom, and here he's his head sticking around the corner, laughing at me again and winding me up. Meanwhile, the old man goes away and says, "Don't you bloody move." Comes back with a bottle of vinegar and pours it straight over my leg. Winds it up in a towel, in the back of the panel van. I said to Scott, "Don't you even get in the back here." So he had to sit in the front, and poor old Mum had to jump in the back. Anyway, in hospital, 22 stitches later, Scott was pretty happy with himself. Another story, Olympic Village Primary School, which Jimmer touched on earlier, we used to go to. First time I've ever seen Scott get in a fight. And he was winding backwards and someone was behind him. Maybe the story Jimmer was talking about. So I've come in behind the bloke, got him in a headlock, brought him to the ground, nearly unconscious. And Mr. Griffiths, sports teacher, said, "Glenn, good work, piss off." And anyway, Mrs. Hoysted, my teacher, grabbed me by the ear, took me to the principal's office, rang up Mum, "Come and pick your son up again." So, story there is, don't look after your big brother. This one. Yeah, one night, happened to be home alone, can't say where Mum and Dad was, and Scott decided I'm going to pull one over my younger brother again. So, I'm in the kitchen, and I hear all this scratching and shit on the back door. Christ, too, so. And it's funny when Scott says it because he's been on the other side of the door. So the door's locked, making all ooh noises. So then all of a sudden he hears and this is Scott thinking, what the hell is that? And I'm going, well, if everyone remembers the Stay Sharp knife, put it in, sharpens it. I thought, this prick's going to get it. Not knowing it was Scott, and I'm going, Anyway, slowly undo the key to the lock, open the door, he goes, I go, nearly hits him, and the first time I heard he said, "You fucking idiot." He doesn't often swear, but I do, so apologies. Just to follow on for that, Scott wised up and thought he'd send his old mate Stephen in. But Scott knew exactly what was going to happen. So another day, send Stephen to the door, just knock on the door, do a bit of ooh, and unbeknownst to me, Scott went in under the kitchen window, waiting for me to go. So anyway, Stephen's greeted by me at the front door. I've gone, Stephen's grabbed a knife. Thank Christ I didn't pull it out of his hands. So, yeah. Another one, which I'm quite surprised to see a lot of female friends of Scott here. Because I actually thought he was a poof. Might have been where, at a time that Jimmer mentioned a bit earlier, they got on the Terps one night, he come home, we used to have an old metal fence that used to go back to Dad's house that he made into a humpy for Scott. Anyway, he's come through one night, I've gone, shit, what's that? Someone trying to break in. Comes to the front, and I go out and it's Scott, pissed as a mute. I said, what are you doing? He said, come on home to me humpy. I said, okay, fair enough. Get in, your mate. He said, why you got all grass and shit all over your top? Been rolling around with Jimmer and Tomo and the boys. I said, I knew it. Knew it. Anyway, he said, I'm no Nancy boy. All right, settle down, Scott. And yeah, so from that day, I thought he was, but no, he surprised me and he wasn't. So I just want to touch on a few things. A couple of very important dates for him. 2nd of the 4th, 89, and the 11th of the 6th, 91, when his two gorgeous girls were born. Made him the most proudest person I ever know. And the way you girls have conducted yourself over the past few, years, you can understand why. I'm so proud of you two girls. And I love you so much. Scott was diagnosed with multiple myeloma of November of 2021. Unfortunately for him, the writing was on the wall because it was one of the worst you could ever have. But he didn't bat an eyelid. Not one Christmas day did he spend at home during them years, but he didn't complain. Sadly, Scott lost his life on the 17th of February at 5:28. Scott, you are a dog. You are a wob. And you were and will always be my big brother. I love you, mate.
We're going to wind up this part of this evening's celebration shortly and move into the long gallery for refreshments. That's out the door and to the left. We can share more stories and memories together there. Please keep in mind that there may be a number of people flying solo here today, so they might not know anyone else. Don't be shy. Turn to the person next to you when you're having a drink. Introduce yourself and share your stories of Scott with them too. While we're in the long room, it might take a little while to set up, but there will be a screen scrolling with photos of Scott throughout his life. So take a moment to stop and enjoy that display. And then lastly, a very special treat for us all in a short while will be a viewing of a recording of Scott's last performance. This performance was filled by the wonderful Jutta Pryor at Lido Jazz Room in Hawthorne on the 26th of August 2023, not so long ago. This will be projected onto the wall out on the balcony, I believe, so when that comes on we'll let you know and grab a drink and enjoy the performance. It's been an honour and my very great pleasure to share this service with you this evening and to support Bianca and Cara through the process of getting this all organised. Thank you once again for taking the time to join us all to celebrate Scott's life and to be part of this journey together as we mourn the passing of Scott Dunbabin. This concludes this afternoon's service. Thank you.
What's